At the backyard barbecue, my wife raised her glass and announced, "It looks like you're going to be a dad." Everyone cheered. I stood up and calmly replied, "In that case, we should congratulate Derek's wife." The rain was beating gently against the windows that night, a kind of soothing silence that once made our kitchen a safe place. But not tonight. Tonight, it felt like the atmosphere had turned sour, and I could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. I stirred the spaghetti sauce, trying not to think too much about the silence behind me. Nicole was standing by the sink, her back stiff, her arms crossed tightly. It was subtle, but I knew her well, too well to ignore it. "Nicole," I said softly, approaching to gently touch her arm. "You have barely said a word all day. Are you okay?" She did not look at me. She just muttered, "My stomach hurts." That was it. My stomach hurts. No sweetness, no eye contact, just a dry sentence as if I were a stranger who had crossed the line. I stepped back slightly, confused. "All right," I said slowly. "Is it serious? Should we?" I said I am fine. Her voice was sharper now, her eyes still fixed on the empty sink. I nodded, giving her space, but after a moment, I tried again. "You have been distant all week. If something is going on, we need to talk about it. I am not trying to force you, but..." She turned around so fast that the dish towel slipped from her shoulder. "Justin, not everything is about you. Let it go." That one felt like a slap in the face. I stared at her. Where is this coming from? "Maybe I am just sick of pretending everything is fine when it is not," she blurted out, her voice rising. "I cannot even breathe in this house without being questioned." Questioned? I took another step closer, keeping my voice low. "Nicole," I asked if you were okay. "It is not questioning. It is what a husband does." "Oh, spare me the perfect husband act," she said sharply, waving her hand in the air. "You want me to smile, cook dinner, sit across from you, and act like you are not suffocating me?" My jaw clenched. "So now I am suffocating you because I am worried about you." She laughed bitterly. "Because you control everything, even how I feel." That hit me right in the heart. I stood there, my heart pounding, looking at this woman, my wife, saying things that seemed prepared in advance, as if she had just been waiting to get this off her chest. "Nicole," I said softly, "if you need space, take it, but do not rewrite history to justify pushing me away." "I am not pushing you away," she hissed. "You simply no longer fit the version of my life that I want right now. That is all." The silence that followed was deafening. All I could hear was the rain tapping against the glass and the sound of my own breathing. I did not yell. I did not beg. I just nodded and stepped back as if I had finally understood something that had eluded me until now. That night, I slept on the couch. Not because she asked me to, but because I could not lie next to someone who looked at me like that. We had been married for 7 years. The mortgage on the house was half paid off. 2 cars in the driveway, dinners with friends. She worked in marketing downtown. I was a high school biology teacher at the local public high school. We were not extravagant, but we were stable, or at least that is what I thought. But that moment in the kitchen, that cold look, those sharp words, it was the first time I realized that something fundamental had broken. And I had no idea yet how deep that fracture went. Sunlight filtered through the blinds as if nothing had happened the day before. Birds were singing outside as if our kitchen had not turned into a place of tension 12 hours ago. I was already up at the edge of the bed, fully dressed. Nicole was still under the covers, her back to me. She had not come to see me on the couch. She had not even checked if I had eaten dinner after storming off. I rubbed the back of my neck and softly cleared my throat. "Good morning," I said, trying to keep a light tone. "I called Dr. Evans's office. They can see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. She did not answer. I waited. "I just want to make sure everything is okay with your stomach. You keep saying it hurts." I thought it was worth checking out. Still nothing. Then the blanket moved, and she sprang up like a coiled spring, glaring at me. "You did what?" I took a small step back, caught off guard. "I made an appointment just as a precaution." Her eyes narrowed. "Who told you to do that?" "No one told me. You said you were not feeling well. You lashed out at me yesterday. You said you were sick, so I did what is normal. I called the doctor." She sat all the way up, her arms crossed over her chest. "You are unbelievable. You think that just because I say my stomach hurts, you have the right to start organizing my whole life?" I blinked. "Nicole, it is just a checkup, that is all. You do not have to go if you do not want to." "Oh, how generous," she said sharply, getting out of bed. But the real reason you did it is that you do not trust me. That is what this is about, right? What? No. Her voice cracked, her eyes wide with something deeper than anger. You are trying to control me. You think that if I do not act the way you expect, you have the right to manage me like some kind of project. I raised my hands calmly. You told me you were not feeling well. I was trying to help. It is not control. It is concern. She was pacing now, opening drawers only to slam them shut. You know what? You have always been like this, calm, nice, reasonable, but deep down, you are always keeping score. You are always watching me as if I am going to make a wrong move. My voice dropped. Is there something you are trying to hide from me? She froze mid-motion. That was it. Her whole body went still. Then her lips curled into an expression mixing disgust and panic. Unbelievable. You think I am lying now? That I am making all this up? I did not answer. She grabbed a throw pillow and hurled it across the room. My God, I cannot breathe in this house. I am not stopping you from breathing, I said softly. I asked if you wanted to see a doctor. She spun back toward me, pointing a trembling finger at my chest. No, you made an appointment. You did not ask. That is the difference. I exhaled slowly, trying not to add fuel to the fire. You are right. I did not ask. Maybe I should have, but I did not think it was necessary when you said you were not well. She stormed past me into the bathroom, pulling the door so hard it shook. You try to play the calm guy, huh, the nice guy? But it is just manipulation. I am not your patient, Justin. The door slammed. I stood there, alone, staring at the wood grain of that door, wondering how we had gotten here. Just a few days ago, we were watching that ridiculous cooking show on the couch. Nicole curled up against me, her laughter making me forget all the stress from work. Now, she was accusing me of trying to control her for making a medical appointment. I glanced at the framed photo on our dresser. The two of us hiking in the Blue Ridge Mountains last fall. Her cheeks rosy from the wind, her smile so genuine it seemed to radiate. I knew her like I knew my own hands. But this was not her. Or maybe it was, and I was only seeing it now. A few minutes later, she stormed out of the bathroom, her bag slung over her shoulder, her face still damp from washing off the face mask she had been wearing. I will be home later, she said sharply, avoiding me. Where are you going? She turned around in the hallway, her eyes glassy. I do not have to report my every move to you, Justin. And with that, she left. I stayed in the bedroom for a moment, listening to the silence settle around me like dust. I was not angry, not yet. I was worried, confused, and beneath that confusion, something colder had started to take shape. Doubt, not just about the argument, but about what had really changed in her, or perhaps what she had been hiding all along. 3 days passed. Nicole did not postpone the doctor's visit, and I did not bring it up again. By Friday, we were both pretending nothing had happened. Melissa and Derek, our closest couple friends, were hosting a small get-together in their backyard. Burgers on the grill, a fire pit, laughter, drinks, a break from the tension. At least, that is what I thought. Nicole had dressed up carefully. That little blue summer dress I had not seen in months, her hair loose over her shoulders, a light gloss on her lips. She looked gorgeous, not for me, but gorgeous. We parked in their driveway around 6 o'clock in the evening. Melissa hugged us both. Derek gave me a pat on the back as always. It was routine. It was familiar. But the moment we stepped into the backyard, something changed in Nicole. I saw it in the way she smiled, wider than usual, just a bit too bright. Justin, go get yourself a drink, she said, walking past me toward the table where Derek was laughing with Melissa. I poured myself a soda. I made some small talk with Melissa, but I was watching Nicole. She was standing next to Derek, leaning slightly toward him, laughing a little too quickly at the joke he had just made. Her hand brushed Derek's arm, not blatantly, not for long, but just long enough for it not to look like an accident. I joined them, gently slipping my arm around her shoulders. She flinched, not dramatically, but her posture stiffened for a split second before she took a small step forward, letting my arm fall away. Derek did not react, but his gaze slid toward Nicole, then toward me. Nicole turned to Melissa. Do you still have that Chardonnay from last weekend? Melissa nodded, already heading toward the kitchen, and there we were, just the three of us now. I looked at Derek. Busy week. Yeah, he answered without meeting my eyes. Same as always. Nicole stepped closer to him. Not enough to be obvious, just enough. The rest of the evening became a blur of wine, fire pit smoke, and laughter in the background. But every time I glanced over, Nicole was not near me. She was always near Derek. I watched her laugh at his stories, lean in a bit when he spoke, touch her hair the way she used to with me at the beginning of our relationship. At one point, while Melissa was handing out drinks, I caught Nicole staring at Derek. Not just a glance. She was observing him with a look that lingered a half-second too long. He met her eyes briefly, then looked away as if they were both pretending not to know what the other was thinking. I did not say anything. I just smiled and handed Nicole her glass as if I had not noticed anything. But I had. Every touch, every flinch, every look. The whole evening felt like I was watching a scene scripted without me. And when we finally got back into the car, Nicole hummed softly, scrolling through her phone screen. Not once did she look at me, and I still did not say anything. But inside, something was changing silently, permanently. It was on a Tuesday that I found Vince, an old friend of a friend, the kind of guy who blends into the background and asks questions without ever seeming to do so. An ex-cop, now a discreet man with a discreet office above a laundromat near downtown Raleigh. A crooked nameplate, burnt coffee, a carpet older than me, but he got the job done. "Tell me exactly what you are looking for," he said, tapping a worn notepad. I hesitated. "I think my wife is hiding something," I finally said. "And it is not just an inappropriate relationship." Vince did not flinch. "You got a name?" "Derek," I replied. "Derek Thompson. He is married. He is close to us." Vince nodded slowly, scribbling. "No problem. I will do this cleanly. You will get photos, timestamps, audio if I can. Nothing illegal, nothing dirty, just the truth." The truth. That was all I wanted. 1 week later, I found myself back in that small, stuffy-smelling office. Vince did not greet me with pleasantries. He just gestured to a chair and turned a laptop screen toward me. "Listen to this," he said. The recording crackled slightly before steadying. Wind, car engines, then Nicole's voice. "I am late, really late. I bought 3 tests. Derek, all positive." I froze. Derek's voice followed, lower, tense. "Are you sure they are reliable?" "I am standing in a hospital parking lot with an ultrasound in my bag," she replied, her voice shaking. "Yeah, I am sure." Derek muttered something under his breath. Then silence, just the ambient noise of passing cars. Someone coughing in the distance. Nicole again. "I do not know what to do." "Derek, will Justin know?" She cut him off. "And he will not find out." "Not yet." Vince paused the audio there. I stared at the screen. The progress bar was not even halfway, but I had heard more than enough. I could not speak right away. My jaw was clenched, my fists tight on my knees. Vince waited respectfully, then leaned forward slightly. "There is something else. She tells him she is going to list you as the father, that it is easier that way for insurance, medical records, her reputation." I closed my eyes. I was not just facing a betrayal. I was facing a plan, a choice. She had made the decision to deceive me, not in the heat of the moment, but with cold logic. "She listed me?" I asked, my voice hoarse. Vince nodded. She told him clearly, "Justin's name goes on the records. It is clean. He will not ask questions if I play it right." I pressed a hand to my mouth, swallowing back something between a laugh and a groan. It was not just an inappropriate relationship. It was a fabrication. She was building a lie brick by brick. Vince slid a folder across the desk. Inside were photos. Nicole and Derek leaning against a car in the hospital parking lot. Nicole's hand resting on her stomach. Derek's face pale, his lips pursed. "You okay?" Vince asked. I nodded slowly. "Yeah." And it was true, because now, for the first time in weeks, I saw things clearly. The story was no longer half-written, and I knew exactly how this chapter had to end. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and silent lies. I walked through the sliding doors just after 9 o'clock in the morning, my hands calmly in my pockets, my heartbeat slow and controlled. No rage, no trembling, just determination. At the front desk, a young nurse looked up with a polite smile. "How can I help you?" "I am here for my wife," I said calmly. "Nicole Reynolds. She had some tests done recently." The nurse typed on her keyboard for a moment. "Are you listed as an immediate family member?" "I am her husband, Justin Reynolds." She hesitated, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. "I will need to verify your identity." I slid my driver's license across the counter. She studied it, looked at the screen, then at me. "You are listed as the father," she said softly. And there it was, reality in print, cold, flat, official. "Yes," I replied. "That is correct." She nodded, still uncertain. For a moment, she disappeared down the hallway. I stood there watching a janitor mop the floor in front of me as if nothing in the world had changed. A few minutes later, she returned holding a thin folder. "This is all I can release under your name," she said. "Thank you," I replied. A doctor appeared beside her, glancing over the file. A man in his early 50s, calm eyes, a professional warmth. "Mr. Reynolds," he said with a gentle smile, offering his hand. "Congratulations." I took his hand. "Thank you," I replied. The words sounded strange in my own mouth. "It is still early," he continued, "but everything looks stable for now. We will schedule the next ultrasound soon." "Of course," I said in an even tone. He nodded again. "Try to be there for her. These first few weeks can be overwhelming." "I will be," I said, because technically that was still true. The nurse turned the folder toward me. "You can review this here if you would like." I opened it slowly, printed forms, intake notes, emergency contacts, and there it was, written in black and white. Father, Justin Reynolds. Not Derek, me. My name, my life, my future. Rewritten without my consent. I carefully closed the folder as if it might bite me. "I appreciate your help," I told the nurse. She smiled, relieved. "You are welcome." The doctor gave a final nod. "Take care of your family." "That is my intention," I replied. Then I turned around and walked down the hallway. Every footstep echoed too loudly, as if the building itself were listening. I felt no anger at that moment. I felt precision. A trap had been set, and I had just stepped over it without getting caught. That evening, our bedroom looked like a magazine ad. Soft lighting, warm shadows, lavender candles flickering on the dresser. Nicole was standing by the bed, wearing a burgundy silk nightgown. I had not seen that nightgown in years. She gave me a look with a soft smile. "Hey." I stopped in the doorway, unbuttoning my cuffs. "Hey." She walked over to the nightstand, adjusting the candle as if it mattered. "You were quiet at dinner." "I had a long day." She paused, nodding as if accepting that answer. "I thought it could just be the two of us tonight." Her voice was low, soft, intentional. She stepped closer, and I caught a trace of that perfume she only wore for our anniversaries, the one that used to make me stop mid-sentence when she walked past. "You look beautiful," I said, remaining carefully neutral. Her fingers touched my chest, trailing up toward my collar. "I was hoping you would say that." I met her eyes. They were soft, calculating. She leaned in close, her voice a whisper. "It has been a while." I stepped back slightly, just enough to put some distance between us. "I am tired," I said in a calm but clear voice. Her face did not change at first. Then she blinked, her lips parting slightly as if I had just said something in a language she did not understand. "Oh, I have had a lot on my mind." "Work?" I nodded, "among other things." She crossed her arms, that silk nightgown moving with her. "You have been distant lately." "You think so?" She did not answer. I walked over to the dresser. I took off my watch. I set it down with a soft click. Her reflection in the mirror was frozen, uncertain. She tried again, her voice low and rehearsed. "I miss us, Justin. Don't you?" I turned around, leaning against the dresser. "You miss the version of me that did not ask questions." She gave a short, dry laugh. "What does that mean?" I did not answer. She sat on the edge of the bed, the mattress creaking slightly under her weight. "I am trying here," she said. "I am lighting candles. I am here. What more do you want from me?" I looked at her for a long time. What I wanted, honesty, it was far too late for that. Answers, I already had them right at this moment. All I wanted was for her to sit in the discomfort she had built instead of hiding behind perfume and lighting tricks. "You do not need to try," I said. "Not tonight." Her shoulders slumped. "So, you are pushing me away now?" "I am not pushing you away," I said softly. "I am just tired." She looked away, and there it was, the first real crack in her armor. Not rage, not manipulation, just uncertainty. The same woman who had been so sure of herself, who had worn betrayal like a second skin, was now shaken by a single word. "No." She slowly stood up from the bed. "I thought maybe we could start fresh, go back to how we were." I tilted my head. "When exactly do you think things changed?" She stared at me, then looked down at the candle beside her, as if it could answer for her. I turned toward the bathroom. "Good night, Nicole." As I left the room, I did not look back, and behind me, the candle's glow flickered against the silence she herself had ignited. The clock on my nightstand displayed the time when I felt her body press against mine. I had not slept a single minute. Nicole's hand lightly brushed my chest, and then she moved closer, her breath warm against my skin. She said nothing at first. She just moved slowly, as if she could slip back into the version of herself that existed before the cracks started to show. Then came the whisper, "I miss you." It landed with the weight of a lie whispered in a church. I did not flinch. I did not answer. She kissed my shoulder. I was thinking maybe we could start over, just the two of us. No pressure, no tension, just us again. I sat up without saying a word. I swung my legs over the edge of the bed. I pulled on a hoodie. "Justin," she said softly. "Where are you going?" I did not answer. I left the bedroom, walked down the hall, and stepped into the kitchen, where the world still smelled like silence and cold tile. The light from the fridge spilled out when I opened the door. Eggs, butter, bread, the usual. I moved slowly, methodically, like someone who had done this 1,000 times, because I had. Only, now everything had changed. Behind me, I heard her feet touch the floor. A moment later, the rustle of fabric, then the soft patter of her footsteps. I cracked the eggs into the pan and let them sizzle, the hissing slicing through the tension like a blade. Nicole's voice followed, coated in sugar and effort. "You are just walking away like that?" "I am making breakfast," I said without turning around. "For whom?" she asked, crossing her arms in the doorway. "Because it really does not feel like you are still here with me." I carefully flipped the eggs. "Are you hungry?" She blinked. "Are you serious right now?" I finally turned around to look at her, her hair tousled from sleep. That silk nightgown still wrinkled now. Her lips still carried the gloss of the fantasy she was trying to recreate. I held her gaze calmly, steadily. "You do not want eggs?" "Justin, stop it," she snapped, stepping into the kitchen. "You are doing that thing where you act like nothing matters, like I did not just try to talk to you, to open up to you." "You tried to reconnect," I said in a neutral tone. Her voice rose. "I am trying to reconnect." "No, Nicole," I replied evenly. "You are trying to erase something. It is not the same thing." She bit her lip, shaking her head. "Why are you acting like I am the enemy?" "I am not acting. I just stopped pretending that you are not." That one hurt. I saw it in her eyes. She leaned against the counter, her shoulders tense. "So this is how it is now? You do not talk to me. You make eggs and speak in riddles." I plated the eggs. I turned off the stove. "Some things," I said, sliding the plate toward her, "no longer need words." "That does not mean anything," she shot back. "It does to me." She stared at me, her arms still crossed as if she were trying to hold herself together. "You think you know everything," she said. "You think you have me figured out?" I met her gaze again. I think I stopped trying to convince myself that I did not already know everything. Her mouth opened, then closed. Nothing came out. I grabbed a second plate. I made myself some eggs without saying another word. Her breathing grew ragged. "I did not want things to be like this," she whispered. I nodded. "Me neither. You are not even asking how I feel." "You do not want to be asked," I said, my voice low. "You want to be forgiven without having to explain yourself." A moment of silence. She stepped forward and gently touched my arm. "Justin, I am scared. I am not saying everything right now because I do not know how." I did not move. "You had time." "I still do," she whispered, but I did not reply. The toaster popped. I grabbed the bread, buttered both slices, placed one next to her plate and the other on mine. She did not sit down. She stood there looking at me, wavering. "Eat something," I said softly. She looked at the plate, then at me. "Are you really going to do this? Sit there and act like none of this is real." I looked at her, and for the first time in days, I smiled. Not a kind smile, a knowing smile. "I am acting like it is very real." She stepped back. She was blinking rapidly. "You are not the one who is supposed to walk away." "You would be surprised," I murmured. Then I sat down and took my first bite. She did not move, did not touch the food. She just stood there, the nightgown slipping off one shoulder, the morning light hitting her eyes like the truth she had not anticipated. Her plan was not falling apart. It already had, and now all that was left was the echo of the kitchen and the quiet clinking of my fork against the porcelain. By noon, the The sky had clouded over, a gray light hovering over Raleigh like a pause before something final. I parked in front of the law firm. I cut the engine and sat there for a moment, my fingers tapping the steering wheel. I was not there to burn bridges. I was there to build the exit. The building was made of brick and glass, quiet, serious. Inside, the walls were lined with books that no one was supposed to touch unless they had to. The receptionist behind the desk greeted me with a tired smile. "Are you Mr. Reynolds?" "Yes." "Mr. Prescott will see you now." I followed her down a narrow hallway to a corner office. Glass partitions, an old wooden desk, 2 chairs across from it. Alan Prescott stood up when I walked in. Early 50s, dark suit, silver hair, eyes that looked like they had seen every possible way a marriage could fall apart. He shook my hand. A firm grip, no warmth, strictly business. "Do you have something for me?" he asked, gesturing for me to sit down. I pulled the folder from my coat and set it on the desk. Inside, the printouts of Vince's report, the audio transcripts, the timestamps, the photos of Nicole and Derek in the hospital parking lot, a copy of the hospital documents showing my name listed as the father, and a flash drive neatly labeled in black ink. Evidence. Alan opened the folder and began flipping through it. He did not rush. He did not speak. He just scanned each page one after the other with the slow, steady rhythm of a man used to sifting through ashes. I sat in silence. The only sound was the faint hum of a vent above us and the soft scrape of paper sliding against paper. When he reached the last page, he leaned back in his chair, resting a hand on the folder. "This," he finally said, "is bulletproof." I nodded once. "I am not surprised. You will win everything," he continued. "Custody considerations, assets, public sympathy, if that matters to you. She can try to fight, but it will not go far. Not with a false declaration of paternity and evidence of an ongoing, inappropriate relationship. I am not interested in dragging her through the mud," I said softly. "I just want to end it cleanly." Alan tilted his head. "You understand she tried to trap you with legal paternity of a child that is not yours. I understand. She could have stayed quiet, waited, collected child support for 18 years. I nodded again. "That is why I am here now, before the damage gets worse." Alan tapped the folder. "You are a smart man. You came in early. I came in right after I stopped lying to myself." He leaned forward, sliding the folder toward him as if it were already part of an active case. "I will start the process today. It will be fast, surgical." "I prefer quiet over fast," I said. Alan offered a dry smile. "Quiet is easy when you hold the truth." I stood up and shook his hand again. "Thank you," I said. "No need," he replied. "She is the one who built the case for you. You are just carrying it." Outside, the clouds had not moved, but somehow the air felt lighter. I did not feel powerful. I felt solid. And for the first time in weeks, I knew exactly where I stood. Melissa's house still had that warm, laid-back aura, like a place where nothing bad could happen. String lights on the fence, the muffled thumping of background music, the clinking of glasses, and the smell of barbecue floating through the backyard. You would have thought peace could reign there, but tonight, things were going to take a very different turn. Nicole had dressed up way too much for a backyard barbecue. A pale pink dress, a gold necklace, her hair curled into waves, as if the evening were more important than she wanted to admit. Her eyes sparkled with a kind of nervous energy, like someone about to perform a magic trick for a blindfolded audience. Melissa welcomed us as always. Warm hugs, a quick, "Drinks are by the cooler, burgers are coming right up." Nicole quickly slipped into the conversations. Her smile wide, her voice more cheerful than it had been in weeks. She laughed a little too loudly at Derek's joke. His wife Melissa did not seem to notice, or maybe she was just trying not to see it. I stood near the edge of the group, sipping a soda, letting the party buzz around me as if I were a shadow. Then I saw it. Nicole gently clinked her glass, drawing everyone's attention. "I just want to say a few words," she said, her voice soft and clear. "I know the last few months have been a bit quiet on our end, but I think it is time to share the good news." I felt my stomach twist. She looked me right in the eye. "Justin and I," her voice trembled just the right amount, perfectly rehearsed, "are expecting a baby." There was a moment of silence. Then the cheers broke out, the laughter, the raised glasses. Someone shouted with joy. Finally, another added, "Congratulations, buddy." Melissa clamped her hands over her mouth, her eyes wide. Oh my God, Nicole, that is wonderful. And Derek, he stood there, frozen, his face losing all its color, as if someone had opened a trapdoor beneath his feet. Nicole turned to me, beaming. Tell them, honey. I raised my glass slowly. I looked at every person around the fire pit, then I smiled. Actually, I said, in a voice as calm, clear, and cold as the winter air, you should be toasting to Derek instead. No one laughed. No one moved. Derek blinked once, twice, then looked down at the beer he was holding as if it might dissolve. Melissa looked between us, confused. Wait, what? I turned to her, still holding my glass firmly. Nicole is pregnant. That part is true. Nicole's smile faltered. But it is not mine. Her voice came out in a rushed gasp. Justin, what? What are you talking about? I did not even look at her. I kept my eyes fixed on Derek. Do you want to say something? Or should I continue? Melissa turned to her husband. Derek. Derek opened his mouth, then closed it. His skin was pale, almost green under the porch lights. Nicole stepped forward quickly. I do not know what he is talking about. He is confused. He is upset. I pulled the flash drive out of my jacket pocket and held it up. An audio recording of the two of you in the hospital parking lot. Your voice. Your words. Derek finally spoke up. His voice was cracked and deep. Nicole. Melissa's eyes locked onto him. What did you do? Nicole reached out toward me, trying to grab the flash drive. Justin, stop, please, we can fix this. You do not have to do this here. Here, I said softly, is exactly where it needs to happen. I looked around the circle of friends we had known for years, some since our wedding. All of them were watching us now with wide eyes, holding their glasses as if they would spill the truth if they moved too fast. Congratulations, Derek, I added, finishing my toast. I hope you are ready for diaper duty. Derek flinched as if he had just been struck. Melissa covered her mouth again, but this time, it was not out of wonder. It was nausea. Nicole's voice broke. It was a mistake, Justin. I was going to tell you. I was scared. You were not scared, I said. You were strategic. And then I turned around. I walked across the yard, past the string lights, the confused looks, the air so heavy no one dared to breathe. I did not need to see how it ended because I already knew. Let her explain her way out of that. Let Derek stutter. Let the silence tear them apart the way they had planned to do to me. For once, I did not clean up the mess. I simply walked away from it. The courtroom smelled of paper and polished wood. Not justice, just bureaucracy at work. Nicole sat across the aisle, her hair pulled back into a neat bun, her lips pressed tight. She was wearing the kind of gray suit that screams humility. Her lawyer, a distinguished man wearing an overpriced tie, leaned in and whispered as if they were crafting the perfect story. My lawyer, Alan Prescott, sat beside me, silent, confident. He did not need to build a narrative. He had the truth in a folder. The judge called us forward. Nicole's lawyer stood up first. Your Honor, my client does not dispute the paternity evidence. She acknowledges her mistake, but asks the court to consider the emotional context. She was living in isolation, emotionally abandoned in a marriage where communication had long since broken down. There was no malice, only confusion and fear. I did not move. The judge nodded slowly, noting something on the legal pad in front of him. And yet, she falsified medical records. That is not fear. That is fraud. Nicole's lawyer shifted. It was not premeditated, Your Honor. Alan stood up. We have documents, audio recordings, and a timeline that suggest otherwise. She admitted her plan to the biological father weeks before Mr. Reynolds knew anything. This was not a lapse in judgment. It was a plot. The judge turned to Nicole. Mrs. Reynolds, do you dispute what has just been presented? She swallowed hard. No, Your Honor. Silence. Then came the ruling. The court finds that Mr. Reynolds is not the legal father of the unborn child. Parental rights are terminated. Mr. Reynolds shall not be held liable for any financial obligations relating to the child. I felt my chest rise slightly. The court awards Mrs. Reynolds the vehicle currently in her name. All other jointly held assets will be retained by Mr. Reynolds. The divorce is granted effective immediately. And finally, Mr. Derek Thompson will be listed as the legal father and must assume all parental responsibilities, including child support, upon birth. I glanced across the aisle. Derek, sitting behind Nicole, did not even look up. He just stared at the table. Nicole's jaw was trembling. But me, I felt peaceful, as if the air had stopped squeezing my ribs. As we stood up to leave, Alan lightly touched my shoulder. You got everything you came for. No, I replied. I got something better. What is that? A clean slate. And then I walked out of the courthouse, a free man. It was a peaceful Sunday morning when I heard a knock at the door. Not rushed, not hesitant, just steady. I opened the door and Melissa stood there. Hair pulled back, no makeup, red eyes as if she had not slept. But her shoulders were straight, her chin held high. She gave me a small smile. Hi. Hi. I replied, stepping aside. Do you want to come in? She shook her head. No, I do not need to sit down. I just needed to ask you something. I leaned against the doorframe, the autumn breeze drifting in behind her. She looked up at me, and her voice was barely more than a whisper. How did you manage not to break down? I let the silence settle for a moment. I let her breathe, then I answered simply. I broke down in silence when no one was looking. Her eyes shined, but no tears fell. I added, some betrayals hit like earthquakes. Melissa nodded, her voice steadier now. Yeah, but you rebuild, I said. And if you do it right, the ground ends up being more solid than before. She let out a shaky laugh. Derek moved out yesterday. I was not surprised. I told him I could not live with someone who could lie so easily to the people who trust him the most. I nodded. That is something I respect. She looked at me for a moment longer, then took a step forward and wrapped her arms around me. It was not romantic. It was nothing more than what two people who had survived the same shipwreck could offer each other. When she pulled back, she smiled again. A real smile this time. I am glad you are doing okay. I am now. Me too. And then she turned around, walked down the steps, and disappeared into the morning. I stood there for a while, looking at the street, the leaves, the quiet. Then I closed the door behind me and took another step into this life that had become entirely mine again, peaceful and finally true. Comment. I really hope this story stayed with you the way it stayed with me. What struck me most is how important it is to hold on to your self-respect even when things get confusing. Setting clear boundaries is not about being cold, but about protecting your peace. I've learned that taking responsibility for your own happiness makes all the difference. Being kind to yourself is the first step toward real healing. Sometimes, walking away quietly is the strongest choice you can make. Choosing peace over chaos might feel scary at first, but it's always worth it. I want you to remember that you deserve relationships built on honesty and respect. Take a moment today to think about where your own boundaries are and whether they are being honored. And if you are going through something similar, know that brighter days are ahead when you choose yourself. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.